Good morning, traders. We'll be going live here in about 5 more minutes. So if you want to grab a cup of coffee or whatever you want, I'm just going to leave the window up here, let people come in, and we'll let everybody get in. Then we'll go live. If you want to review any charts in the chat, just go ahead and post those in there. I'll be going over some Market Smith relative strength stocks. Okay, good morning, traders. We're going to go ahead and get started here. Um, Welcome to closing print. This is Heart Pumper coming to you. We're going to go through some relative stocks, relative strength stocks to the market. Let's see. I'll go ahead and pop up the ES real quick. We can see it's just flagging here under this previous breakdown area. So this is the area we're watching going in today. We have a downtrend line here. So nice flag building there. So we'll see how this flag reacts going forward for the rest of the day. So here's some Market Smith stocks that I pulled up this morning. I'm just going to go through these. I haven't put these in a list yet, which I will. Roku, probably close to the top of my list. Pulled back on lighter volume, good EPS, excellent breakout kind of this flat base here. Pulled back to the 50 MA, which is the 10 MA weekly. Good institutional ownership. Some of the bigger funds are in it that I like to see. Was up yesterday, back above the 21E on good volume, plus 20%. Okay, it's 11 million. Good liquid stock moving forward. Doesn't have the greatest passes for me on the ratings, but that's just because of the nature of the stock at the moment. So I like to trade the best of the best. EPS, and I like all these to be passing, but NA on some of these just because of the previous EPS. But the institutional ownership has almost quadrupled since 2018 and almost doubled since 2019. So this is one I'll be watching moving forward for a longer term swing. I'd like for this to set up a proper base. Pattern recognition is not picking this up yet, kind of as a flat base breakout, pullback to pivot. They have the pivot here that they've listed, minus 1% there. So this is definitely a pullback to pivot also, which is a nice setup. So that'll be one I look at. Crowd held in very well. Nice pullback to the pivot here. Set our pivot alerts are Market Smith. Excellent institutional ownership. SMR rating still doesn't read out here because of the previous EPS, but I'm okay with that. Prior quarter, you can see it on the weekly if you flip to it. So it's all listed here, increasing, EPS percent change, which is great. EPS has gone up. They went to positive here last 2 quarters. So some other of these will start filling in. But weekly time frame also looks excellent. Pull back to pivot here. Huge volume on the breakout. So institutional ownership stepped up there. And then the volume this week already is extremely low. So minus 41%. So that is probably one of my A++ setups. Looking for a longer term swing on that if we can get in. Again, we'll use a tier system. I would even give this, for me, this stop loss is here, so I would even give this 7% down here because that would be below the 10 MA weekly if we break down. If the market overall is not looking favorable, then we could cut that at 3 and 3.5%. Because it's uptrend under pressure from IBD now. But if you're in a smaller position and cut your loss at 3 or 3.5%, that's excellent. That's good. This is not a true huge or larger cup and handle, but it's a newer IPO, but it is in the overall look kind of broke out of the cup here. But if you think about this, a larger cup and handle, if this builds out, this definitely could be one of the ones that moves first. Now it pulled back a little farther than I like on the daily, but the volume is lower. So pull back to the 10 MA weekly. It's a test. It's held all the way through here. This was a previous profit taking area, which it kind of moved up and broke out of. So pull back there. A little bit more volume than I'd like to see on the pullback, but that's one we'll watch going forward. Be nice. This is kind of a flat base here, so the 454 above that with the stop below here. Might be a good kind of risk reward for that. Again, you want to look at the sector summaries also. This is in the top 25 sectors, so I give those a lot more weight in my list moving forward. XP actually looking pretty well. Not in one of the top 25 sectors, but building this huge cup and handle, and this is a flat base here. Not a proper pivot that's picked up by pattern rec yet. Good EPS. Institutional ownership, I'd like to see this pick up. My only problem is it's a lower volume stock. Okay, it's not very liquid. So this can get kind of shoved around back and forth. So this would be kind of lower down on my list, but still on the watch list because it's showing good, relative strength to the market. So next one would be LVGO. You can go with the LVGO and Teladoc, both of those, okay. Pulling back to the 10-minute weekly, had an inside day yesterday. Institutional ownership picking up since the announcement. It's 287% from its initial pivot. So we're kind of getting this first pullback where we're going to be able to gauge our institution stepping up and supporting the stock at this level right here, kind of where we saw it bounce. Or it's going to pull in a little further. So we'll see. Don't necessarily want to jump in it too early on this, bigger base here, but we'll see if it shows relative strength. Then big volume might be a good risk reward play with the stop, below the 10 MA and kind of below this bottom of the range there. So again, these are stocks that are a little more spec. Because they've pulled back some kind of in this range. I like to see the stocks that are holding above the range, kind of the first ones we discussed there. Nary had a huge run. We caught a lot of this run, took profits, and now it's pulling back to a profit-taking area. Lower volume. Again, it's not a liquid stock. Okay, so this thing can get shoved around very easily. So this would be one that I actually would, maybe take less than my initial position if I'm looking try to catch a move back up. But all these need to show relative strength moving forward the next few days. If it's showing weakness, there's no reason to enter into these. EXPI, nice big run up here, first pullback to the 21E since this run up, pretty much on lower volume. Yesterday, bigger volume, bounce off the 21E, institutional ownership's picking up. So it's over 1 million shares, which I like to have it a little bit higher than that, but 1 million shares is not bad. So this is just kind of this first move pullback since a huge run up. So another one we're keeping on the watch list. Let's see what else. Band, I passed that. Oops, sorry. Band, I passed that one. I did not take this breakout and move up, even though we had it on our watch list. Really good volume on the breakout. Now it's pulling back on a little bit lower volume. EPS is pretty much off the charts, which is great. Institutional ownership's picked up. Some bigger funds are in it that we like to see. So pull back to the 10 MA weekly. This definitely needs to hold. What I like to see is, it's kind of a doji candle yesterday on that pullback. So this has to show relative strength and get back above the 21E pretty quickly on above average volume. For me to look for that to move out of that. Let's see what is next. FRPT. This was a great run up on this one. Kind of the first pullback since this move. EPS was great. A little bit more volume than I like to see on the pullback. I like to see low volume pullback. And again, it's not a liquid stock. Okay, so but actually some pretty decent funds are in this. Which is surprising me for this lower volume non-liquid stock. So we'll see kind of how this, if this pulls back to around the 100 level 10 MA weekly, I would definitely be interested, but we'll see. Again, need to show relative strength pretty quickly, but is pulled back less. FVRR, I know a lot of growth stock people were looking at this one initially, so it is pulling back on higher volume. Only reason I put it on the list is because institutional fund ownership is increasing and it has kind of off the charts EPS. So we'll see that moving forward, back to this previous pivot in this lower range. So I would like to see this form a base kind of building out and then move above this 126.33 on excellent volume. But just a massive run up from the breakout, like with all the other stocks. So we want to see this RS rating continue sideways and increase. NVCR, this is a kind of a biotech name. Huge volume yesterday, plus 86%, kind of back in this range pivot that I originally broke out of. So definitely looking for this one to move above this previous pivot high on increasing volume. If you look at the weekly, you look left, it's kind of in this huge cup base. So above 96.43. Definitely has room to move. So you see the EPS down here, 124, 131, and 300%. So this is kind of higher on my list, maybe for a move into the fourth quarter. some bigger funds getting involved, which is great. So above that 96.33 breakout, definitely think it has some upside potential. So you can look over here at the other um, um, rankings we like to look at. So definitely keep that on the watch list. Um, PVG, I think I had this one on this one because it's finished the day well. Yeah, this flag on the weekly looks very nice here. EPS increasing all the way across for the past 3 quarters, above 40%, which is great. Institutional ownership increasing. It's a Canadian company that does mining. That's just, top 10 sectors for me. So that everything looks good on this. So we'll see what happens. Nice base here, so above 1307 can definitely move, increasing volume, relative strength rating increasing. So I don't think this is actually a high type flag because it needs to move 100%. But still it has this kind of nice pole flagging, lower volume kind of VCP here on the down days, which definitely has me interested on that. So moving forward, that'd be a good one to look at. SQ, always keep this one on the watch list for me. Pull back to the 10 MA weekly. Just overall SQ and PayPal, with payments and stuff. I like to have all the stuff with me on this, but these are just ones kind of like with MA and Visa that you need to keep on the watch list because credit card payments are not going to go away anytime soon, and they actually may get better with the overview of everything that's going on out in the economy. Snap looks excellent here. Again, not the greatest on the SMR rating, but in the social media space, huge institutional ownership increasing, big funds in it. Pull back on lighter volume. Yesterday, decent volume kind of held this. So this is your big range. So below 2160 is your stop on anything that you're getting in, depending on if you're swinging, if you wanted to use this 2132. But definitely like to see this flag here in the bottom of this range and possibly just to move back to here to the pivot. And then if you get a pullback, you can actually, scale some and then be ready for a pivot breakout if we get it moving forward. So this is definitely one on my list to kind of do a tier in. You could start with smaller shares, so 2269, so 2068 you're looking. That's a little bit over 10%, which I don't necessarily like. So if it pulls back a little bit and you can get a fill down here, it'd be great. But above this pivot 23, I'd be looking for the overhead area. So awesome. Let's see next. Sale. Okay, 905 doing good. Sale. This is another point of sale technology that is ran up very well and is now pulling back. You can see the EPS has been stellar. Above this kind of overall weekly pivot here, relative strength ratings at 95, so there's your EPS down there. Pull back on lower volume this week, and it's pretty liquid stock, 1.4 million, so I'm good with that. So that's definitely one that I'll be looking at moving forward if this continues to show relative strength. I'd like to see that institutional ownership pick up also. Let's see, BFB for the kind of overall economic look. Nice breakout on big volume, big EPS, kind of flagging up here, even a pullback to this pivot. I don't have an alert set for that. So pull back to that pivot would be ideal. So there's the breakout. Like to see this just keep continuing to form a flag up here on lower volume. Institutional ownership's great, 1.2 million shares, so liquid stock that you can be in. So that's one for the overall kind of XLY. Again, top 25 sectors. So top 25 sectors. So I'm good with that, or groups, I guess I should say, for IBD. Coop, crazy relative strength. Broke out yesterday on huge volume, 361%. So I definitely have this one on my watch list. Pretty good. Group rating is not good. EPS ratings not bad, but everything else looks great. So kind of what you do is you rank this, and each one you take a ding off. So you started with an A plus stock, so the group rating down to a D minus might drop it down to a B. EPS rating might drop it down to a B minus. Depending on what your thought process is and how you would rank those. But the weekly, we like to look at some other stuff on the weekly and the ROE moving forward. So and then some other candidates. OMF was looking really good. Some other candidates in the sector, so you can click on that. Nice flag there on the weekly. Lower volume. EPS is not really the greatest supporting it, but again, nice flag there. So a couple to keep on your watch list. Duluth Trading, it's a retail stock, obviously. Great relative strength, big EPS, huge volume breakout. So I definitely wouldn't just be chasing it up here. So look for a flag and pull back here. If you look at the weekly, kind of daily weekly, if you understand Weinstein, this was kind of the stage 4 markdown. Stage 1 kind of accumulation base, and now we're in the stage 2 markup. So does it have the ability to go up into this area? Not really sure, but I do like this cup breakout and possible starting in the stage 2 of the overall trend. You need to see this institutional ownership pick up. So LB was actually holding in pretty well also, I think. Let me see. Kind of pulling back there, but there's some other ones in there. Obviously Lulu, Gap, and some other ones in there that you can click on if you use MarketSmith. So Graph, this is one of those SPAC or acquisition companies, so not necessarily one that I would say for most people to jump in and trade, and not necessarily one that I trade, but it is having huge volume breaking out here. So that's one you can keep on the watch. 1.8 million shares. So extremely new. Just went sideways. It's one of those acquisition companies. So I wouldn't say to trade this. Just throwing some stuff out there for people that are maybe some quicker momentum traders that would like to look for those trades. So Hibbett Sports, excellent, showing excellent relative strength, big EPS. RS rating continues to increase. Institutional ownership, not bad. The problem is it's less than 1 million shares. But if you want to look into this one in the kind of consumer cyclical space, retail leisure products, top 5 groups for IBD. IBP, building products, kind of top 50 on the groups on IBD, but showing relative strength yesterday, big volume, plus 49%. Again, not a liquid stock. So I've said this multiple times on a few of these, but it's showing relative strength. So if you want to trade something like that. And the last one is Kura. Another biotech, 1.2 million shares, nice breakout yesterday. So again, these are some spec ones, and I tell you that because we don't know. I like to have a little bit more of a background company that's sustainable that I like to be in. So again, this is kind of a spec biotech, but just one that if anybody's in the spec biotech land, I'm trying to cover it for all traders to give you a little bit of everything. But personally, I'll be looking at Roku Crowd, now XP, LVGO, narrow band, FVRR, and NVCR. Okay, so those are the ones that would kind of be on the top of my list. XONE actually is doing well. This is a 3D printing stock, which is interesting. Huge volume on the breakout now. So I'm going to watch this one moving forward. Funds have doubled. None of the big funds in it that I like to see. But it's just interesting. It's coming up on some scans. Doyu, maybe on one of the top of my list also. Excellent increasing increasing EPS, pulling back to the profit-taking area. Relative strength, funds coming in. None of the big funds that I like to see yet, but pulling back on lower volume. Bounce yesterday was on lower volume, so we need to see get back above the 21E on increasing volume. And CODX, this is going to be a little bit different play than what I'm used to. Again, a kind of spec biotech, but huge volume yesterday, 20 million, just massive, and then back down kind of this pivot area, lower into the range. So I'm not telling anyone to take this here. Okay, this is completely speculative, but one I want to keep on my watch list because funds are coming for this pretty big from March to June, so there's definitely something going on here. So plus 400% on volume yesterday. So obviously had some news or something going forward, but it could possibly be one of those ones where we can just buy a few shares and have very minimal risk. I'm talking 20 to 50 shares as we scale in, for newer traders. I mean, so the problem is it's 11.64 to 8, so that's $3. So if you're buying, 20, 30 shares, that's just $100. But something that could just get crazy and take off. So not one what I would say to really look crazy on your trading, but something that you can look at. Zixi, the same play, rehabilitation for spinal cord injuries, plus 28% volume. Pull back to this kind of 200 MA area and this huge base that it broke out of. So you had your kind of stage 1 accumulation, stage 2 markup, stage 3 distribution here, and now kind of your stage 4 markdown. I don't technically think it would go through all the Weinstein stages, but institutional ownership is picking up. So that gives you a little bit more tailwind, and it bounced on pretty decent volume yesterday. So that's another one I'll just kind of keep on the watch list. So there's about 15 to 20 stocks that are showing relative strength to the market. There may be a few. I'm in Berry. I took a low position yesterday. I didn't like the close, so we'll see how it finishes today. APPS held in extremely well. Pull back here, and then my number one position is Workhorse. Okay, just beautiful here, huge volume yesterday. We had a big position, tried to break out this pivot 2290, which is the standard. Above that, I believe more buying will come in. But basically we just have to see how it acts. Blue dot scan, relative strength, new line back here. So that's like what we like to see. I mean, 59 million on volume is just massive. So institutions were definitely coming in and trading this, as well as other traders. So even a pullback to this, breakout 20 area would be a nice area to even add to your position. But I like to add on to strength. So above 2290, we'll be looking for an add-on to our position. I took some profits yesterday, so I'm down to a nice holding area or holding core position. But I believe everybody kind of in the Twitter universe was looking at this yesterday. So just one, I think, within the next year moving forward, that's going to be able to get some good flow, and who knows where it goes from here. So, okay, hope that helps traders. Thanks. If you need anything, check us out at theclosingprint.com. You can become a member, pretty decent price. We also have a live Slack room. We have our positions posted on here on a document for everybody to look at and be aware of. So thanks, and we'll see you on the stream.